Hello and welcome to Coast People. This week we're going to be talking about the quality that everyone needs to succeed, that is determination. Anita Harris was determined from an early age to become a performer, and she succeeded, playing Las Vegas at the age of 16. It's tough at the top, but if anyone has stayed there, she has. And Mary Lovell was a leading businesswoman until she decided to switch careers and become a writer. Her latest book is the biography of a woman who was the pre-war symbol of determination, Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic and then who mysteriously disappeared on a flight around the world. Mary, you're going to tell us all about that a bit later, yes. I know. But in the meantime, Anita, the determination to succeed, eh? When did performing first bite you?
Well, I used to skate as a child at the Westover Ice Rink in Bournemouth. I think the word performing didn't enter my head, in fact, until I actually saw Doris Day in Calamity Jane. And I thought, that's for me.
You wanted to be Doris Day?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
oh, yes. And funnily enough, in the play that I'm doing at the moment, the marvellous director, Tony Clayton, he's chosen some delicious music to thread through the play. And he's chosen Doris Day singing Secret Love and some other marvellous music, as well as Sinatra. So I just feel I've sort of slightly gone back into the womb feeling of my beginnings, of what really captured my heart. And I still adore her. I think she is a great artist.
What about your family background? Were any of them performers? What did your father do?
I had a great uncle who was a performer. My father and grandfather built cinemas in Bristol and Bath. And so I was brought up really looking at films and enjoying, of course, Sonia Heaney. Hence, when we moved to Bournemouth when I was 7, straight to the ice rink. You know.
So skater was your first love,
yes,
was it?
Yes, it was. And still, I adore it. And I've still kept in touch with a lot of friends. And I love to see it. There's a lovely new girl, 16-year-old, coming up from Scotland, that I think we're going to do well for Britain. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
When did all the singing and the acting and the dancing come in then?
Well, I had a very marvellous singing teacher at school. I went to the convent in Bournemouth, and she was very encouraging. In fact, the whole school, I wasn't very good academically, so they were very good and encouraged what you were best at. And I remember us having to collect threepenny pieces to help build a new theatre for the school. So, well done, school. And then I went to the Hampshire School of Drama at the age of 15, spent a year there.
First job?
First job was literally, I was seen on the ice at Queen's in London and was offered the job as a dancer and was whisked off to Brussels and Italy. And then my parents had to go to Bow Street Magistrates Court and sign for a chaperone. Only 16.
Yes.
And went to Las Vegas for 3 months, dancing in a line. Amy MacDonald was another 16-year-old dancing. There we were.
Didn't you work with Engelbert Humperdinck at this tender age as well?
Yes, well, I came back from Las Vegas, auditioned for Cliff Adams, singing group, and we worked on Granada television then in those days. And yes, Jerry Dorsey then afterwards became Engelbert. We were just 8 girls and 8 boys singers doing 2 live television shows a week at the age of 17. When you dive in that quickly to something, you do learn a great deal. I mean, it's later that you realise how very lucky you were to have that launch, really.
You have a fantastic musical ability. Not only do you sing, but you also write songs too. I didn't know that.
Well, I used to do a lot more in the 60s and 70s than I do now. I think when you're touring as a girl singer, it can be pretty lonely, and you spend a lot of time in dressing rooms. So between shows, I would often scribble away, and that's just I don't work at it, but it just sometimes comes, which is nice.
I think that's brilliant. I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, it's like writing a book, Mary. I mean, the whole initial starting thing, it just comes into your mind and...
Well, I think most performers... I'm working with a marvellous chap called Nigel Williams. He's playing my leading man. He's a bit dishy and very, very nice.
Your husband's not watching, is
It's all right. And he has a wonderful singing voice, and he writes songs as well. I think when you're on there, it's just another creative outlet, which is different to Mary, who concentrates solely on the writing side, don't you? Which is wonderful. I started to read your book.
That's good. Great. Oh, good. Well, hang on,
Did you finish it? That's the important thing.
I will do now. I haven't got it yesterday.
Just Loving You was your first big hit. Is it true that you would have given it all up if that hadn't have been a hit?
No, gosh, no. Where'd you get that
I
from?
read somewhere that you'd had a few that weren't working terribly well, and you thought, oh, well, if this doesn't make it, you see, it's all absolute rubbish. Whenever you read this research, you see, there's
no way I could do anything else.
But anyway, that was your first big hit.
Listen, I was very, very grateful to that record because Tom Springfield wrote that for me. And yes, I'd had a few records out and didn't do anything, and that just opened all the doors. But more wonderfully, it was a marvellous song, is a marvellous song. And to have romance going in the late 60s was such a contrast to what was going on musically at the time. So it was wonderful for me. So, you know, great.
And then you married your manager,
Yes.
Mike Margolis.
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Margolis, yes. When did it,
Known for his short, fat, hairy legs before Ernie Wise.
when did it stop? You know, the business about falling in love. It's like he's your manager and it's all business, and suddenly you look at him as something different.
Yes.
And how does that happen?
Well, knowing and respecting and working with somebody, you definitely grow to love them anyway for them as people. Then I was in fact going out with somebody who lived in Spain, lovely gentleman, but it didn't work out, and I went across to Spain and missed Michael. It was as simple as that. I was away for a month, and I spoke to my accountant at the time, who then phoned Michael and said, "You better get out there quick." It was quite romantic.
Very romantic.
And that was 16 years ago. So.
Ah, that wasn't a surprise for Mike. He was
No, I
already
think
in love with you.
Oh, he had lots of young ladies too. He was being in advertising. There were a lot of model girls around, you know. Yeah, he's
You've done a
lovely
lot
fella.
of children's television as well in your time. You've been associated with Peter Pan and goodness knows what. We've got a clip now of you demonstrating your skating skills to Sandy Toksvig.
Oh,
We
yes.
have is a toe rake. The actual blade is about an eighth of an inch wide. There is an inside edge and an outside edge,
Right.
all very, very useful.
Can you show me when you're
Yes,
skating
and
the use of it?
This is the outside edge, but on my right foot is the inside edge. So I'm skating left foot outside edge, right foot inside edge. Right?
It's terrific. You must have to practice for, years to get to be that smooth.
It's like anything, 8 hours a day minimum. And for children who are training, you need to normally go in either first thing in the morning. And for grown-ups training, they have to go in after work and after the session.
Sometimes I've heard like 3
Through
o'clock
the
in the
night.
morning.
Jane
they
and
can do.
Christopher, Torval and Dean, they used to work through the night.
Well, I don't know if we can work through the night, but perhaps we could have another little tango, shall we?
I think you're absolutely splendid.
Get an eye of this now,
Let's go!
Out of context, that was she's a very clever girl, Sandy.
She's very funny.
Very
yeah.
funny, and that's a bit strange out of context. That, in fact, was plastic ice.
Really?
Yes, that was a little piece of ice brought into the studio, made of plastic. It's a whole brand new technology, very interesting.
Is it very
Skate
different
anywhere.
to skate on?
Yes, you have to push harder and get into the plastic. It's quite difficult, in fact.
Like a dry ski
That's it.
slope.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a bit
right.
slower, isn't it?
That's
than-
right,
I
yes.
see. Now, you were also chosen to represent Britain for the Olympics in Montreal as the ideal... I've got this a bit wrong. Just explain what it's all about.
Oh gosh, I don't know what the terminology was. It was representing Britain for... I honestly forgotten. It's in my
something to do
passport.
with your sporting excellence, and
Well,
you're a
it
very
was
good
to do with
ambassador for
skating.
British sport. And
Yes, and basically, I think when you work on children's television, they tend to feel that it's helping whatever you work on. It's helping children to blossom, and it's very good for growing up. So, I don't know, but it was great fun, and I had a marvelous time there. And when you're actually there to work and be part of the structure of it, you see so many different things than just being a spectator. That was wonderful.
what was it?
Yeah.
Yes, what were the highlights of that? You obviously got
Oh,
to be
getting-
real back scenes.
Yes, getting close up to the people that were actually the adrenaline and the, you know, it's like being backstage. I mean, before a show, everybody's working hard at adrenaline to get high so that they're in either their character or everything is working in good working order. All Harry Seacombe does is go, "Ah!" and then he's on. But a lot of us have to work a bit harder. No, the sporting thing is amazing backstage, incredible. The whole build-up thing is wonderful to be part of.
Peter Pan, I'm looking at you. You're looking exactly like Peter Pan today. Peter Pan is another character you've been associated with for a long
Yes.
time. What's the
Yes.
attraction of him?
totally magical. I found greatness in learning from a marvellous lady called Pauline Grant, who directed the 2 years that I did. She helped me with the knowledge of researching J.M. Barrie and the whole Peter Pan structure. And then you've got the flying, you've got the fairy dust, and the believing that anything can be done, anything can happen. And seeing those children believe, and the storyline, the strong storyline, terribly important. And I think important in pantomime too, if the children can believe in something, they will come back to the theatre. And of course the whole enjoyment of theatre. I was talking to a lady yesterday, in fact, who was saying that she'd taken her children firstly to see Midsummer Night's Dream, a wonderful production, and then take them to see another Shakespearean play, and it wasn't very good, and she hasn't been able to get her children back into the theatre. So there is some responsibility.
Really? To see anything after
yes,
that?
yes, but I mean that's a selfish point of view, of course.
Yes.
But no, Peter Pan was magical, and of course there's magic in what I'm doing now, which is...
Well, tell me what you're doing now. It's Bell, Book and Candle.
Yes.
And you're not the lovely, nice Anita Harris, I hear, that we already love. What are you playing?
I play a girl called Gillian, who has a Knightsbridge London flat. And in fact, I am a witch.
A good or a bad witch?
Without a broomstick.
Ooh, but a good or a bad one?
Well, definitely a white witch. The play is written by John Van Druten, who wrote I Am a Camera, which then became Cabaret.
Yes.
Marvellously written play. And it's, I have an aunt who is also a witch, Aunt Queenie, played by Anna Wing.
Oh, yes.
Delightful.
Lou Beale from EastEnders.
Lovely, lovely lady. And a brother who's also a witch. There's the triangle. There's just the three of us that are witches. My brother, played by David Moran. He has wonderful comedy moments. It's a delightful play. And the romantic element is Nigel, who I mentioned before. And the other, there's only 5-character play. Bob Wilson plays an author, rather eccentric. So it has many emotions. It's romantic comedy. It has drama and lovely magical things that I won't let out now.
Well, you're in Worthing this week.
Yes.
And you do...
Red Hill next week.
And
then we do Winchester and Swindon, my dears.
Oh, right. Well, it'll be better get the charabangs out and come and see you.
Lovely.
But you also have another little furry co-star in this play, I hear.
Pyewacket.
Tell me about Pyewacket.
Pyewacket's my pussycat, my familiar, Gillian's familiar. Our producer, Michael Rose, has bought this beautiful Havana cat, like a Burmese, and he's been wonderful. We did have a few problems in Horsham, because Pyewacket 1 got a little bit poorly, so we had to audition, and we had five Pyewackets, different sizes. Of course, he's meant to just lie there as a familiar. You see, familiars are the magic cats that help the magic actually happen. So, but we're back to Pyewacket 1, and he's in Red Hill, and he's very beautiful.
So he just sits on you?
He just sits there, and
he knows he's performing.
He knows all the potions and the ways to make things work.
Well, you like cats?
I love cats.
Well, that's a relief. We're all cat lovers.
Oh,
then.
yes.
Because
yes.
Mary, I know you even mention your cat on the dust jacket of your book.
Oh yes. Well, it's become a sort of symbol now. All of my books, I say Mary lives in the New Forest with her cat Jasper. So Jasper's quite a famous literary cat.
Does he help you writing? Does he do any research for you? Get lunch
No, he doesn't.
For you?
I mean, I really regard him as my owner, really. I only work to feed my cat. No struggling water, you know.
What sort of cat is he?
Oh, he's just a moggy. No, well, that's not strictly true. His mother was a Siamese that got out